Education reform is complex because education itself is inherently complex. Teaching and learning are both very complex as well. So law number one for reform is that simple solutions will not work. Law number two is that you must develop a sophisticated approach. But sophisticated does not mean complex or complicated. Sophisticated means carefully examining and understanding all the key factors and variables that will influence whether you succeed or fail in your efforts to achieve reform, and then address them in your strategy. You need a plan, and it needs to be a smart one. The plan also has rules learned from experts and hard experience. Rule number one is you must be convinced your reform is worthwhile. You must be convinced it is worth everyone's efforts to achieve, and you must have the evidence to support it, such as PISA findings and lessons learned of best practice. It's not good enough to think it's worthwhile. You owe it to everyone to be sure that it is. Rule number two is you need to evaluate where those you seek to influence are at. You cannot force sustainable change. You must influence others to change with you. So you need to identify their self-interest, their motivations, and their levels of comfort, and appeal to them and build on them. Rule number three is you need to find common ground. None of us agree on everything, but lots of us agree on many things. So find them. And a good starting place is the welfare and development of our students, our children. No good teacher or parent wants anything other than the best possible opportunities and outcomes for our young ones. So start there. Explain how your reform will improve the opportunity for students to learn. Rule number four is you need to become a salesperson. The golden rule of selling is to identify your prospect's need or problem and solve it. Find what they hate doing and do it for them. Therefore, your reform must offer something substantial for teachers. Convince them that adopting your reform will benefit them, will solve something that for them is a problem, or a nuisance, or is something they want to achieve but have trouble doing so. If your reform is not seen to offer them something of value, they have no reason to adopt it, and they won't. The fifth rule is to anticipate their concerns, their doubts, their scepticism. Anticipate objections and prepare persuasive answers. If your peers express no concerns with your reform, they most likely are being polite, but not honest. Rule number 6 is to strive for adoption and ownership by your peers. The very best situation you can achieve is to hand over the reform to those who have now adopted and started to own it. They will be your advance guard for change, and this will also take the spotlight off you. They will in turn convince others. Rule 7 is to keep them on track and keep them moving through subtle support and prompting. Let them own the ideas and actions, but make sure they align with your initial reform needs and your objectives.